everybody! Welcome to Reacting Wrong Meme. Welcome to Reacting Reddit, where real humans read, react, and summarize stories, content, trending topics, using replies on Reddit. When somebody shares something and the person sharing things is an alarming individual who probably should have kept their mouth shut, yeah, that happens a lot. So it's not always like, oh yeah, I have this story about this other person. Sometimes you'll find points in Reddit history where like murderers were writing Reddit posts and that kind of thing, and it's kind of alarming when you look into it. So we'll see that towards the end of this video. The first reply is by No Glitz, thanks. This isn't very old, but some guys found out his wife was having an incestuous affair with her brother, and he wasn't sure if his kid was his or not. Why does he call the people telling him to forgive her feminists? Being a feminist's a goal to do with this. Now, if he called them anything else, assholes, idiots, etc., I totally get it. But the movement of wanting equal rights for women and equality between the sexes? Nothing to do with this. I do hope the kiddo is his, but I hope if he's not, that he doesn't disown the kid. The kid didn't ask to be born. He didn't need to lose only his dad if he turns out not to link OP's kid. You won't be able to sleep another 22 hours if you read the rest of this post. Cordiella Grace says, I finally quit when I got to the one where the guy's wife noticed that she had a voicemail from a year prior, and it was a girl screaming for help and to not be raped, and it went on for 3 minutes, and it sounded like it tied into a kidnapped girl's case who managed to get free by getting a hold of someone's phone and got a hold of a friend. I read that one about 3 hours ago. I'm still awake. That poor girl. High Defiance says there was a woman who was in a relationship with a man that was just showering her with gifts and stuff, bringing her to nice restaurants and was planning trips to different countries. She was accepting it at first, but she became skeptical of it. It turns out that it was a common sign of human trafficking, and a commenter actually worked for an anti-trafficking agency. They pointed out the similarities between her story and a comic tactic to lure in people. Here's the post. I just had a bit of a read through her post as well and a look at her profile. It's a bit scary that she hasn't posted, commented, or replied for over 40 days. It would be nice to know if she was okay. Dead Until Coffee says, oh, I remember this post. She posted it originally, I think because all the cars parked on her street were the same color. I think. There was a clear street name and a few identifying buildings in the photo, so naturally, what did Reddit do? They tracked her down. It was really quite terrifying. What were the mods doing? When there's a thread like this, it's a no-brainer that it has to be removed instantly. Telon Tusk says, in a semi-related story, I like to do this for hobby. I keep it for myself though. Like if someone on Facebook posts a picture from their window or nearby parks, etc., I try to pinpoint to the block or even house just for the fun of it. I never intend to dox anyone, and I often do it just for mutuals or random people when I feel bored or don't even keep track of it. It's not like I have a spreadsheet with names and addresses. Chekhov's Dick's Pick says, I actually love doing this too. It started from having to find locations where I'd find fossil and minerals hunted and didn't get a coordinate, but I had a few photos. I was able to pinpoint my now boyfriend's cabin in the woods on Google Earth, despite there being full tree cover and no roads, based on a photo he posted from his deck. I waited a couple weeks to tell him. He took it well enough. Every now and then he's like, remember when you did that creepy thing? I love you, but that was creepy. Also, I second the other poster. You'd love GeoGuessr. Big Gay Trucker says, long time ago, there was a thread of people posting shots from their windows. Someone posted a nice shot and I knew exactly who it was. So I simply posted, oh, hi neighbor, not thinking much about it, and figured they could message me. But no, they deleted their account. But to be fair, they had a weird porn history and probably didn't want that to be known. Who doesn't have a weird porn? Like, can you watch porn and it not be weird? I mean, most porn's pretty weird. Is that, like, what's normal porn? I mean, Like, really, is there any porn video you could play in front of a group of people who are strangers and they'll be like, oh, that's just normal porn. No, that's not, they're always gonna be like, Flip Coder says, when a huge chunk of people on our technology started threatening to murder politicians and target their children's schools, so they put an announcement across the top reminding people that murder is wrong and threatening to kill people's families is not allowed. Frank Gore Stole My Bike says, to be fair, our forefathers kicked off the Revolutionary War because Parliament enacted a 1% tax on tea to help offset the cost of the French and Indian War, which the colonists aggravated by constantly crossing into French-claimed lands, then demanding the British come fight for them. It absolutely blows my mind how many times pointing out facts around the Revolutionary War gets downvoted on Reddit. It's like nobody can let go of the "that plucky underdogs beat the world's greatest empire" bullshit they were told in elementary school. Want to know another secret about the Revolutionary War? A major reason America won is because of India. America wasn't a profitable colony for the British. Colonists kept starting shit, often with the Native Americans, and demanding the British come and help them when shit would pop off. So, despite not wanting to lose influence in the Americas, it was costing too much money, and there were issues popping up in India, who was making the empire a lot of money. So, the Brits chose to focus on their profitable colony instead. If England had brought the full weight of its military and naval power to bear, even with France's help, America would have been crushed. It's funny hearing, like, you often will hear, like, English people argue with US people about, like, Revolutionary War crap, and basically anytime a winner talks about the history, it's been lied about, and that's true for England and for the US. So because the US won the Revolutionary War and the US became a world power, it's quite likely that a lot of facts about the Revolutionary War that is taught to US people is actually just glorified war and not real. That's what all developed countries do to some extent. They all minimize the things that they did wrong. Ironically, the best country in the world for not minimizing the things they fucked up in the past is Germany. There's no place in the world with more anti-Nazi sentiment than Germany itself. Which is kind of ironic that the culture that created the Nazis is the culture that looks back on its history with the most honest criticism. Whereas so many other cultures, whether you're talking about communist powers or democratic powers, it doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. They glorify and lie about their battles at the expense of other people, Japan downplays all the horrible things Japanese people did to the Chinese, and the United States downplays all of the horrible things that the United States did to every single other developing country in the world that it had a role in, It's a bit sad. The winners write history. M. Noble 473 said the British were forcing their own tea from India on colonists because it wasn't selling anywhere, and put a stop to manufacturing most products in the United States. This crippled a lot of businessmen, and the other abominable acts had harmed several other major businesses in the United States. People were resentful. Americans still attempted to make United States people, still attempted to make peace. A large portion of the, I guess it wasn't, this was pre-USA? I hate calling the USA America because there's Canada, there's Latin America, there's South America. Like, why is the United States? Why are Americans just in the United States when there's like a whole fucking continent. There's multiple continents called the Americas. So, yeah, the Native Americans, they weren't fighting the English. The Inca Mayan people, they weren't fighting the English in this case. All the people who lived in South America, the millions more people than the US, they weren't involved. They're all Americans. Why are we using a word to talk about one subgroup when really the word means a large portion of the world's population that wasn't even involved. Sorry, I get frustrated. And they wanted to make a bargain with England. However, when all of this didn't work, we finally took action. We didn't fight them over a 1% T-tax, and that is why you are being downvoted. Chaos47 says, audio being recorded on a daughter's Kindle Fire, yet only heard occasionally through headphones at a low frequency. What could possibly be going on? Woman's ex works for NASA and is spying on her. Gets caught by daughter's Kindle Fire tablet and sharper image headphones working as an impromptu antenna. Is that for real? Was that a real thing? I gotta find that. NSA spying Kindle Fire. That should be enough keywords. Let's see. Because it is actually possible for a speaker or a computer speaker to accidentally pick up radio signals. That's something that's happened to me. Like I used to have this computer speaker in like the early 90s that would it would have this weird alien like humming noise, and sometimes you could actually hear the beat of music, and if you compared it to like an AM or FM radio channel, you could like find similarities basically. But that's just caused by the fact that wires can act as an antenna, and if you have a speaker, that means it can transmit sound from vibration. So sound is vibration, but sound from electrical signal. So it has the components to function as a radio. Not very effective or a loud radio, but a radio, right? So I'm curious if we can find information about this. NSA spy Kindle Fire. Is that real? Bum bum bum. We need something more detailed. Okay, woman's ex. Maybe, let's see. Woman's ex, daughter, NSA spy. That should... Yeah, here we go. Okay. This is just a Reddit comment. 2 years ago. And it is audio being recorded on daughter's Kindle Fire, yet only heard occasionally through headphones at a low frequency. Okay, daughter received a Kindle for Christmas last year. Daughter paused a YouTube video and said she could hear mom and dad talking on her tablet through her headphones. Okay, so they can hear a faint conversation. And it was a previous argument. Okay, got it. Interesting. So that wasn't a case of like a radio channel. That was a case of some kind of transmission happening of a recording. At least that's what was claimed. I'm not going to get into that though, because that's really complicated to explain. Catafrocty says, my speakers started transmitting and receiving one day about 10 years ago. I started hearing voices coming from them. Two people having a conversation via radio. Don't recall if it was ham or not. And when I realized what it was, I said aloud in confusion, what the hell? And one of the people says, hello, new person, which freaked me out. In the end, though, we had a short conversation, and they explained that speakers can sometimes go awry and behave like radios. I really wish I could remember how the explanation went. It only ever happened that one time, though. And I still use those same speakers, actually. Death Ray Robot says, whoa, okay, this is weirding me out. I didn't know this was a thing. Other devices picking up stuff that's being recorded, in reference to the previous story about the Kindle. About 5 years ago, I could hear voices coming out of the TV speakers when the TV was on standby. It definitely wasn't audio from any TV channels. My dad could hear it too, so it wasn't just me going crazy. It was very faint. You had to press your ear right up against the speaker to hear it. You couldn't really make out the voices or what they were saying, just that there was a conversation. We just figured that the TV was picking up some radio signals or something. This post is making me wonder if that was actually what was happening. Yeah, so that's exactly what happened to me. I had that same experience as a kid with some old computer speakers. I couldn't talk to somebody, but if I wasn't using the speakers, but they were plugged in, you could hear them, and it actually, like, the volume control had nothing to do with the volume of that interference. So you could actually hear the radio you couldn't actually hear the words, but you could hear that it was talking, it was conversation, if you put the volume all the way down, but the power was still on. Whereas if you put the volume all the way up, then the speaker's noise of like whatever you were listening to just completely overpowered the weird chatter. So the alien chatter noise only happened when the speaker was powered on and on low volume. Chaos47 says, I kind of doubt what you heard was a recording, transmitting device, but it is a possibility. The device was recording and then transmitting it later, so the X was able to get the recordings without going into the house by either parking outside or setting up a second device somewhere nearby. It's a known fact that speakers can act as an antenna, especially if they use long runs of speaker cables. Even fans can pick up radio transmissions and make weird sounds. Also, don't forget that there isn't just AM and FM radio out there. There are all sorts of bands being used for all sorts of things. Many ham bands or CB would be common bands that conversations are the norm. In some areas, it's still considered cool to run CB way out of spec, which can cause all sorts of weird things to happen. There's also a lot of baby monitors that are not type compliant and use ham bands illegally. If you have issues like this, try putting a ferrite bead on your cables. Thanks for the reply. This makes me feel a lot better. It probably was radio that the television was picking up. I live in a completely different place now with a completely different television, so it's not likely to happen again, but I'll keep it in mind if it does. Ava Fly says you probably don't know the answer, but I'm really curious about how these sneaky audio recordings end up being played back. It's kind of counterintuitive. This reminds me of a radio episode where a journalist attended the creation of a new decentralized cryptocurrency. Everyone took great precautions to seal their devices off from the outside world, as their secret generation code couldn't be compromised. At some point, they started hearing a mysterious audio feedback loop that they traced back to the journalist's phone. My details are fuzzy, but it was something like the phone was playing back audio from a Google Hangout they were having with the person abroad who was also generating a part of the code. Chaos47 replies, I don't really know for sure, and that the original poster isn't talking about it anymore, but I assume it was like a tiny computer with a radio transceiver built in. It recorded everything to storage and then later transmitted it over radio on delay. If you can get back into the house, you would simply switch out the storage media. If you cannot, then you sit outside in your car and listen or set up another device outside somewhere that receives the radio signal and stores it so that you can come and retrieve it later. Honestly, I'm surprised that they use radio though, and not had it sending it as files over Wi-Fi. I guess they were afraid that the extra strain on the network would be noticed. Avafly says, so it probably wasn't playing through the Kindle, but the current from the Kindle turned the headphones into a receiver, basically? What shoddy work from a person whose job description includes spying on people? Completely unrelated, but now I have even more questions of my own experiences being spied on, because that playback had nothing to do with radio waves. I don't think. Chaos47 said, yeah. Originally, people in the thread thought it was going over Wi-Fi, or the bug was inside the Kindle itself. But the original poster had the issue happen across the street at her parents' house as well. The powered headphone jack on the Kindle, plus the cable of the headphones being the correct length to pick up the radio wave, caused the headphones to act as a receiver. It's a pretty random that the Kindle and headphones just happened to work wrong for this reason. So it's really not that shoddy of work. Sometimes low tech is still a good way to go. If you don't own a radio capable of picking up that frequency and actively scanning it, then there's a little chance that you would ever know. It was just a freak accident in this case that it was detected. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. If you want more of this kind of content, please do one of the following. Watch another video, comment below, like the video, or the ultimate, subscribe to the channel. Actually no, that's not true. The ultimate show of support is to reach out to us and talk to us about using software to create YouTube channels and thumbnails and videos. Because if you're interested in that, we want to have a Zoom call with you. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.